This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Which one? Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve. My name is Steve, and welcome on your live African safari. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Djuma. Welcome to the dawn. We're bringing you live African safari from the wilderness. My name is Steve, joined by BK on camera. And always would love to hear from you. Any questions you might have, #WildEarth, or throw them in on the YouTube chat stream or Twitch. Our options this morning are to just drive around and checking the landscape for some tracks. The clouds have pulled in from yesterday, from that very warm, uncomfortable breeze. It's a very common practice. You get that very strong winds pulling in, pushing, and then the next day the wind is gone, but the clouds are everywhere, and it's going to be a lot cooler this morning. I forgot what the temperature was. I think it is actually warmer than it's supposed to be, but it's going to get cooler as the day goes on. It is 13 degrees Celsius, 56 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's actually a degree warmer than yesterday, but that is because of the cloud cover. But with the cloud cover, there's going to be almost no solar radiation today, and if the clouds don't burn off, it's going to be a bit cooler afternoon. Should be nice. So we're going to do what we do, drive along this road here, see if we can pick up on any tracks.
A very good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful morning here in the Masai Mara. My name is Isaac, and on camera I have Big James. This morning I'm staying at the marsh, see if I can find the marsh lions. Together, there's usually lots of cats here, and that's what I'm going to do. I have nothing in front of me, but I do have a beautiful landscape, as you can see. I don't know what's ahead of me, but definitely I'm going to find something for you. Remember to talk to us on #CGTNWild, #WildEarth. That's where you can ask us questions, you can interact with us, and I hope we're going to give you a memorable morning. It's beautiful here in the Masai Mara. Just look at the landscape that I have. But before I waste more time, let me continue driving, because I have nothing right now in front of me. But who knows, there could be something not very far from where I am, and that's what I'm gonna look for. As you know, there's nothing much as I can see here, but definitely there is something somewhere. Yesterday we did have a very big storm in the evening, and that's why the skies have opened up. They're really blue and clear. Looks like it's going to be a very, very hot day. Yesterday it went to almost to 28 degrees Celsius. I think today it might exceed that. Usually when there's no clouds, it gets really, really, really hot. It is usually the case when it rains that it gets hot the next day. I'm hoping it's going to be hot, and animals are going to be everywhere.
warm welcome to all our viewers. We're currently here at Ambion in Ngala now. I'm going to be your ranger this morning. I'm Nikki, and with me on the camera is Ger. So the area that we decided to come and stop this morning is a nice and open area, but there were tracks of quite a big pride of lions heading down in this direction. Now we just slowed down here, stopped just to listen if we can hear anything. There were some hyenas calling up on this side off to our right. So what we're going to do is head straight in that area and hopefully be able to find these lions. So the last tracks we had were just down here, heading down towards the river. Last night the wind was blowing quite hard. It might be that the lions could have gone down to the river bed to go and lie down in there to get out of the wind. We don't know. We'll just have to give it a go. Hopefully we can find them this morning. But it is incredible just to be able to head out early this morning to go and look for these animals. And it's almost like whenever you do go on a drive, it's a whole new chapter, a whole new adventure each and every day.
Absolutely. Every day is a new day when you go out on safari, and lions will take any cover just to hide, either any bushes, just to make sure they're not spotted. If we would have any lions here, we have seen when the wildebeest will want to cross the river, or zebras will see lions taking cover and hiding by the bushes just along the river. So what would happen, they're always very patient and they wait for these animals to come. They cross, if maybe there are about a couple of hundreds of them, they come crossing, and the lioness or the lion will lay ambush and very slowly just come so close and then maybe just decide to attack. Well, for now, or at the moment, we haven't seen any lions as yet. We haven't seen any wildebeests as yet, but we're just going to stay here, very patiently wait and see what happens, because out here we get so many surprises. We could be having such a quiet moment because if you look to the back of that waterfall, there's a huge stock there. I'm sure Bungay, who's on camera today, going to show us that stock. That stock's just feeding, and that's a yellow-billed stock. And maybe the next minute it will disappear. But then behind those bushes, you might just see a cat coming out walking. It could be a cheetah, it could be a leopard, it could be a lion, it could be a lioness. So just patiently waiting at any one point once you're out in the African wilderness can give you surprises at any time. Now, the Masai Mara has a number of rivers, but this is the main river that we call the Mara River. And we have seen the wildebeest and the zebras crossing all these rivers. But apparently, the Masai Mara River or the Mara River is most important because it's here where sometimes we see hundreds of wildebeest and zebras crossing, and you are going to see more of the same.
From the southern plains of the Serengeti, over 1 million grazers move northwest through the western corridor, gathering along the banks of the Grumeti River. Once the chaos of the rut comes to an end, the herds gallop north once again. In time, more than 2 million animals amount to feast on the abundance the Mara has to offer. But the reward of the red oat grass does not come easy. The zebra vanguard is the first on the banks, taking the plunge into the treacherous Mara River in order to reach the untouched long grass plains on the other side. Not only must they face the turbulent waters, but also the crocodiles, gliding through the rapids in anticipation. Then comes the body of the migration, the thundering herds of the white-bearded wildebeest, with their bleats echoing through the landscape while in search for greener pastures. Hunger, so too are the lions of the Mara who patrol the banks of the river. The risks are known, but the herds are determined. All must make the leap. Some will fall, but for the survivors, the lush greenery that awaits is bountiful. And then, as is nature's way, it comes the time to cross the river again as they continue to follow the life-giving storms and nourishing plains.
Hello everybody, welcome back live to South Africa. The migration is a spectacle that if you've never seen before, it is very well worth going and having a look. I was very lucky to have been there last year, and well, it's just very hard to explain if you've never been in amongst the masses. The smell, the noise, the flies are next level. Anyway, talking about flies and talking about overwhelming things, I found something here on the floor, which is quite interesting for the most part, but it is a story of a toilet, a story of poo, and the story of a small, medium-sized omnivore called a civet. And now this is what we call a civet tree. It's quite large, extends all the way around where I'm here, and it's a seasonal deposit of dung. What's that? You can hear some elephants, eh? Elephant tummy rumbles somewhere nearby. I heard that. We'll go follow up on some elephants soon, because there's only one animal, to be honest, that's got a bigger poo than a civet, and that's an elephant. But amazing, a civet that only stands about this high off the ground has got such enormous dung. And you'll notice I'm using a stick because I'm not going to be prodding around in this. There are shells, or should I say millipede scales, rings. There's fur over there because they are omnivores. They'll eat some meat, they'll eat some mammals if they can. I don't know what mammals they catch, but there's lots of fur over there. And there'll be lots of berries and fruit. There's some seeds over here, grass seeds. So a very seasonal sort of diet that the civet has. And this is a territorial boundary. So the civet will walk here and he'll defecate here regularly. And it's basically indicating to all the other civets his strength, his size, and his occupation of the area. So it is quite something to look at, but very, very important signposts out in the African wilds. Animals use smell a lot for communication. They like to put things down that tell everybody else that I'm here, and it saves a lot of energy, because if you do put down a signpost that says I'm available or I'm occupied, people tend to leave you alone, or other animals of the same species. Without doing this, there'll be a lot more conflict, a lot more injury, and potentially even more death. So by doing this, they avoid a lot of conflict. Although it might seem like quite a big thing to do, they just make sure that they keep their bowel movements for specific times of the day. Okay, a marvelous tale of the small and interestings out in the wilderness, and BK heard some elephants. Let's go see if we can maybe find the elephants, because there's nothing nicer to start off a day than a herd of eddies.
So we were talking earlier about smells and or how animals can use different smells. Now, in this open area that we went through, we came across a very interesting sight. Now, if you just drive past, it looks like a flat area with a couple of, looks like a bit of antelope dung that's scattered across here. But this is such an interesting place to be, because at the moment, there's quite a few tracks here of what looks like wildebeest. Now, often with the wildebeest, especially a male, when it becomes, or when it's dominant, it will often have an area, a territory that belongs to that particular wildebeest. Now, how it would mark it, of course, it would defecate, sometimes rub its head through the soil, even use its hooves. And so you'll notice with wildebeest, they have these glands between their hooves. So what they'll do is they'll basically push the hoof into the sand like this and then rub it like this, in order to get their scent across, but also with the dung. So this here would probably be something like a dung bed. And so this is one spot where they'll often come down, probably lie down here during the evening, and eventually in the day he'll start moving again. But there's quite a few tracks here. I can just imagine he would have lied down here. We didn't see any wildebeest, so this might be a good sign because of those lines that we are looking out for, that they probably came past this area, and that's why they're not here. So we're going to carry on in this direction, and hopefully it's a good sign we could possibly find these lines. I'm hoping. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Now, I think let's probably see if we can find these lines.
Very good luck, Mickey, and
very good, Nikki, and good luck, and hopefully you're going to find some lions. Now, you remember earlier I told you, as it warms up, these amphibious animals here will try to come out of the water and warm up. So we've got this one hippo here trying just to come to the surface of the water and basically get a bit of sun, because it's very cold where it is. Look at it and see how it blends in very well. Oh, there are two of them there. Now, we have known hippos to mate in the water. We have known them to give birth in the water. And I'm wondering what is in front of it. Is it a hippo? Is it pushing away a crocodile? Yeah, I'm trying to think. It's pushing away a croc there. Rarely we get them having issues when they're in the water. Yes, that's a croc to me. And they are not getting along very well. Once in a while, we have seen hippos going for crocs and crocs going for hippos. Of course, we know hippos are herbivores and crocs are carnivores. But should maybe, if this is a female, feel a little uncomfortable and she got a young one, we have seen these reptiles eating the baby hippos. And I'm sure maybe if this is a female, she could be just feeling not right with this croc being very close to her, baby, and maybe she's pushing it away. Still can't stop, still moving away. It's very interesting, because hippos normally will have big groups where they stay together, and I think she is like, go away, we don't want you so close to us. Oh, it's a baby hippo rather. Yeah, it looks like a baby hippo, so it could be a plaything between her and the mother. Yeah, it's a baby hippo. Two babies maybe. I was just seeing the head and the nose. And either the mother is trying to show the youngster how to survive in the water. We all know hippos do not swim in the water, so they just walk through. And because they can't also float, maybe they're just being taught the ropes by the mother. This is exactly what you do for survival, and because they're just moving against the current a little bit. You see, always they try to keep the eyes on top, ears, and if you look at the eyes, the nostrils and the ears, they're always at the same par, slightly above the water. But once in a while, you'll get the hippos way inside, and every 3-5 minutes, they'll just pop up to breathe and then back in the water.
Welcome back to South Africa, everybody, in Djuma. We've got a herd of elephants here, but they're being a little bit shy. They're moving away from us. We're not going to push them. They don't want to be on camera for some reason. It's possible that the wind yesterday has unsettled them. Let me just move forward a little bit here and get through that bush. So we're not going to follow them. Just a little gap over here. There we go. The African or savanna elephant, everybody. Such an important species in the system. Occurring in sort of loose, small groups to large groups. You sometimes might find them in enormous accumulations or aggregations. But invariably, they break up into these smaller groups of 4, 5, maybe 10 elephants. A few big females with their successive years of offspring. That one there is probably a female with individuals of different ages, and it's very likely that she's also pregnant. So we have a quiz for you this morning. Elephant quiz. I wonder if you're all ready for something to make the brain work in the morning. Now, elephant are mixed feeders, and they use their teeth for grinding down the vegetation. Now, I wonder how, if you can tell me out there by sending through your answers to hashtag Wild Earth or hashtag CGTN, how many molars does an elephant, now African elephant, get in their lifetime? How many molars? There's a specific number. Let us know. Those are the grinding teeth inside the mouth. They get them at different ages. They get the first one, and then the first ones push forward as the second pair come from the back, and they actually sort of push out the front of the mouth, as it were, until the final one has come through. Now, how many molars is that? The way in which the teeth grow in the elephant's mouth is a very good indication of its age. If you find an elephant's skull, you can actually work out the age to within 2 years. Oh, it's giving his bum a scratch. Oh, look at that. That poor termite mound. We're going to try to spend another moment with these ellies, but it seems like they want to move off into the thickets.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to and Beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. Just thinking or listening to the elephants that Steve's busy watching, there's definitely nothing better than a good scratch when it hits the spot. My name is Grant, and behind the camera this morning we've got Craig, and we have come out to the area where we left that cheetah yesterday afternoon, and we've come to see if we can find her again. Now, as some of you may remember, she did have a little bit of a belly on her. There was actually a question about whether or not she was pregnant, but I did explain yesterday that I think it is because she had eaten recently, so she was still busy digesting a meal. So we've just come across these waterbuck on our way into the area, and we thought we'd spend a little bit of time with them and just watch and listen. Perhaps we can find some clues as to where that cheetah might be, because it's very possible that she moved late evening yesterday to find a suitable, to find a quiet and safe place to rest. So we are quite close to quite a big watering hole, one of the last remaining watering holes on Phinda, and which is why we find these waterbuck here. They are water dependent, and they're never too far from water. It's always interesting to see those shaggy necks, and they need that extra bit of fur, because Craig and I noticed as we were descending from Phinda Mountain Lodge, which is quite high up on the side of a mountain, as we were descending to the lower lying areas where the river is and where this waterhole is, you can immediately start to feel the cold as it starts to get cooler, as you start to drop lower. And so they need that extra bit of fur around their necks to keep them warm. Those perfect white rings around their bums. It's quite nice to see that they are relaxing again and they're going back to feeding. I love waterbuck. Megan, thank you. I also love waterbuck. I love all animals, but it's always... Yeah, I had a guest once tell me, do you know what my favorite animal is? And I said, what is it? And he said, it's the one I'm looking at right now. So basically he was saying any animal is his favorite animal as long as he's looking at an animal, and I really appreciated that comment. So thanks for yours as well. See, they popped their heads up there. There was a sound. We are going to investigate the area here, see if we can maybe find any signs or pointers that might lead us to where that cheetah might have gone.
Hello and welcome back, and look what is here. Found 3 young lions. Cannot identify them. I think they're part of the Marsh Pride on the triangle side. Don't get confused about this. They're quite a distance away, and this is an off-road area, so I'm sticking to where I am, and I'll be watching them to see what they're doing. It's quite early and the grass is quite wet, and so they're not moving very much. You can see they're quite far away from where I am, but there is one that is quite active. The one to the right looks like he's a young male, about 3 years old, I would say. The 2 to the left could be her sisters. The one in front or in the middle looks like it might be moving soon by the looks, but I can't say exactly what they're going to be doing. The one to the left, you can tell it's starting to clean itself, so it means they might be have been moving earlier on quite a lot in the morning dew, and they are wet. Looks that like they are very alert at the same time, so if something passes by, we could get lucky and see them go for breakfast. Remember, this is coming live from the beautiful Masai Mara Triangle in Kenya. Okay, he just decided to take a nap. I don't know what to do now, but this is beautiful, guys. I hadn't seen lions yesterday, and it's my first sighting of the day. Beatrice, thank you for your question. You asked, how many prides are there in the triangle. Every year it changes. Last year we had about 6. This year we have witnessed about this is Swan Pride. We have seen the Mogoro Pride. We have seen the Owinos, the Sausage Tree Pride, and the Salt Lake Pride. And there is also Purugat Pride. So there is about 7 prides still. And they haven't changed the names, but what has changed is the numbers. We're not seeing the exact numbers we saw last year. Some of them are more, like the Owinos, and the Mogoro are still the same. This Marsh Pride, they're less. They're not as many, and also we haven't seen the Olololo Pride, which were about 18. So in total, we're seeing about 6 prides. There could be more. But since we're always broadcasting and seeing them every day, we'll be able to confirm if the Olololo Pride, comes back, which will make it to 7 prides. But at the moment, we have 6 prides. That female did, wake up and stretch a little bit, then lie down. I can see their heads are turning quite a lot, which means there could be something they are hearing in the long grass. So I don't know if they're going to be moving. This is a beautiful section of the marsh. See the different type of trees. This one with lots of branches and leaves, has been underbrowsed really nicely. Look at that. That is the work of the giraffes. See how quickly they can disappear if you didn't know what you were looking for. If they lie down, they just quickly can disappear just in front of your eyes. I'm going to stick here for a little bit longer, see if they do something.
Yes, indeed. Well, lions can disappear and so can elephants. I mean, look at that. Back here with us in Juma in the woodlands where the elephants have moved off for a short bit and are feeling quite comfortable now with our presence. But we're not going to press or go any closer. They were moving away from us, so we're going to leave it like that. But the elephants, it's a non-stop feeding frenzy from the day they're born. Or should I say, from the day they're born, they drink milk when they are hungry, and they learn how to use that trunk. But after the first 1.5 years, 2 years, feeding becomes a necessity all day long. You'll see elephants taking that trunk and just putting food in their mouth. And what happens is that their teeth actually get worn down. And obviously this has worked over a very, very long time, that they go from their first set of molars to a second, and then a third obviously comes through. And I know there's a few answers that have come through with regards to how many sets of molars does an elephant erupt in their life. And I think Cheeks said 3. Cheeks, that's halfway there. Judy, I think, said 24. Judy, that's way too many. And I can't remember. Arlaramua, I think Arlaramua said 6. Now, right in the middle there, Arlaramua, number 6 is indeed the correct answer. What happens is that elephants will go through a period where one set of molars gets worn down, and at that right time, the enamel gets worn down from the vegetation, the sticks, the grass, and eventually another one is pushed forward from the back, almost like a stack of dominoes. They push forward, and then the front molar actually is sort of pushed out of the mouth entirely. And it works in stages, obviously. It takes time. You know, you've grown teeth before. They don't just pop out. So it pushes and pushes and pushes. And then the first set of molars gets removed. The second one gets replaced by the third one. And eventually, at about the age of between 40 and 45, the 6th set of molars erupts in the elephant's mouth, pushing out the last 5th one. And then once that set of molars has been ground right down to a smooth finish, the elephants start to really struggle to break down their food. And it's why you'll find old elephants hanging around in very sort of riverine, riparian areas where the vegetation's very soft, lots of sedges, lots of soft, juicy grass, stuff that's very easily chewed, and it doesn't require too much in the way of chomping with the mouth to be ingested and then thus digested. So old elephants, due to the fact that their teeth wear down to that point, actually, when you look at their dung, you can find in the dung almost completely unbroken up particles. The leaves, the sticks, everything that comes out in the dung almost looks like you were in your garden and you raked up a pile of leaves and sticks. That is what an old elephant's dung looks like. And then slowly, over time, they will lose condition, lose weight, and you'll see the skin starting to sort of wrap around the bones as the muscle and body weight disappears. And then eventually those animals will succumb to sort of poor condition and old age. So many researchers have looked at elephants that they've put collars on, and they can actually put molds in the mouth, a fluoride mold, which then obviously takes an imprint of the dental structure. And with that, with animals that are being researched, they can figure out its age to within about 2 years.
Well done. I mean, I like when Steve Ovo talks about elephants. He is very vast about elephants. And apparently, we haven't seen researchers following the hippos, because as he says, we have seen, people putting on collars to animals like elephants, hyenas, lions, but not sure why nobody has bothered to research on hippopotamus. And my guess would be because those collars normally have a small little chip or like small little gadget for data to be followed. It could be very tricky to have one gadget that could be waterproof. And talking about the dentition of elephants, we're looking also at hippos. Hippos got very huge canine teeth, and more so to the males, because that is what they use to fight, to defend their territories. If you look at the canines, especially of the fully grown bulls, they could be anything close to 2 feet. And the whole idea here is for them to fight if need be. There could be an intruder or another male coming to try and sneak in. because in every group of hippos of anything from 20, sometimes up to 100, depending on the habitat and of course availability of food, there'll be one dominant bull. His main work is of course to protect the cows and her calves, because the single bull that will be dominant in a group, for example this one here, he has all the mating rights. He would tolerate, once in a while, some adult males, and once they're big enough, he'll definitely show them the door, and then they're going either to form their own group or they'll go to another area. So the group we're seeing here is always resident here, and it remains here like all around the year. It doesn't go anywhere. They of course come out, say at dusk, to go and graze, and in the water, the hippos are very territorial. But once out at dusk going to graze, you'll get everybody takes a different direction for feeding, and they feed solitary. As it warms up, you'll get some more of them coming out of the water. Just enjoying listening to the current. Defian, you'd like to know if the current would pull the baby downstream. Not really. You'll be surprised. We're going to show you where we have the biggest current of this river here. And what happens is the hippos are very intelligent animals. Anybody who take water as a habitat must learn how to survive, and the mothers will not allow their young ones to be in any place that is very deep or where the current is very fast. We haven't seen that happen unless maybe the calf could be sick or something could be wrong with it, but the mothers will always make sure the position they take in the water, it has the right depth, it's comfortable, and the current is not as fast. Look at those hippos there. Look at the heads there. See, the current there is not as heavy, and they got their nostrils, their eyes, their ears above the water, and that's how the hippos are designed, so that they can keep the whole body under the water to cool off. Now, if these hippos here would be having small little calves with them, they'll put them on the edge of the river, not exactly where they are, because that area to me is quite deep, could be a meter and a half. And of course, because the calves will need to breathe once in a while, they'll just make sure they put them on the edge where it's not very deep. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, comments and questions are always very welcome, and you can tweet using hashtag CGTNWorld or hashtag WorldEarth. Kids, we haven't forgotten you. We love to hear from you, and you can do that by sending us emails, kidsquestions@worldearth.tv. I'm not sure the Bunge is seeing a crocodile there somewhere. Bunge is the gentleman on the camera this morning, and I think to the far left he has seen a crocodile, I guess, but pretty small one. And it blends in, it just looks like a log. And definitely as it warms up, we'll get most of these reptiles coming out of the water. Pranav, levels of this river do not affect the crossing. You'll be surprised that when the wildebeest will choose to cross, the things they do not consider, they do not look at the levels of the water, and they do not look at the gradient of the crossing point. They just all push to the river, they have a huge build-up, and they just go regardless of the depth. I mean, once in a while we have seen them crossing on, in the water or in this river at a depth of only about 2 feet, when the water is very low. Look at, imagine the height of your knee. That will be the level of the water. We have seen them just coming, crossing, and boom, they go. They choose certain crossing points, like where we are now. This, we call this one the main crossing point. And when the currents are very high, you'll get the river is about 3 meters deep, and they just plunge in, they disappear in the water, they push, because they know they have to come out on the other end, and they come out. And it's at those crossings where we end up seeing so many mortalities. I'm still very hopeful that the dynamics here where we are going to change later, and as a result, I'm remaining here.
Thanks, Gigi. I hope you get to see a crossing today. It's really quite a spectacle. Well, we've caught up with a young elephant bull who was giving us a nice sort of bit of body language for a moment, and now he's decided, as with the rest of the herd, that he's rather going to go off into the thickets. Quite amazing, everybody, how this is going to transform itself for the next few weeks. On the verge of spring, less than a month until spring, and all the trees around here are going to start blooming. Leaves are going to start popping out, and flowers. Hello, Kathy. You want to know how much an elephant weighs at birth? And it's about 110 kilograms, about 200 to 220 odd pounds. It's a very heavy little animal. And they are very small when they're born, with a gestation period of nearly 2 years, 22 months in the mummy's tummy. And when you see them born, they are the smallest little things, but bear in mind that they are also standing next to mum. Now, most of our biggest friends weigh that. So you can imagine that at birth in a very small little package. It just goes to show how solid the bone structure is. And obviously elephants have a very long gestation period so that the baby is a little bit more developed at birth. And little baby elephants are able to get up within the first 5 to 10 minutes. And the herd moves quite slowly with them at first. But from an early age, they need to keep up with the herd. But it is baby elephants that dictate the movements of breeding herds. So it sets breeding herds apart from big bulls. Big bulls are really, really big, and being a very big animal means that you feed on bulk, of course, but you don't need the same quality in food. The energy requirement is lower. So big bulls can afford to hang out in areas of bulk food that's quite nutrient poor, whereas breeding herds of elephants need to move in response to their youngsters' desires or needs from an energy point of view. First of all, they need to provide milk for the babies, and the small elephants need to feed on very nutrient-rich food. And so breeding herds' movements are definitely very seasonal. They move in response to nutrients, in response to the rains. They'll always feed on the best available grass that they can, and flowers and fruits as well. And so their movements are curtailed by the youngsters. And obviously they can also only move so far every day because of the ability of the youngsters to move. Whereas bulls, well, they just move off and just take it very easy. This is one young bull who's sort of hanging around on the periphery of the herd. He's too cool to hang out with the youngsters. So he's finding his own meal on the outskirts, but still staying in sort of enough of an earshot in case mum needs him.
Good morning, everyone, for a beautiful day here at Tswalu Kalahari. David on camera is always just doing a fine job there, making art out of this incredible landscape. And my name's Dylan. I believe you're looking at the bottom of an elephant, or an elephant's bottom, either, or whichever way around it is. It sounds like you guys are having some really good sightings with our colleagues there. Nonetheless, it is fantastic having you with David and myself, as always. I'm really sorry. We have been having tech issues the past couple of afternoons. It seems to be a heat-related thing in electrical components. That's why we've been on in the mornings, but not in the afternoons. Anyway, we are back and up and running. Hopefully, we'll hold thumbs. David will be checking it early every afternoon, so we know if we're actually going to be going live or not. But anyway, what a sighting we had here yesterday, those cheetah. And just to go out on a morning drive like that, not expecting anything, just going out and enjoying the morning, having a good, and then next thing, there's a cheetah with 4 cubs. That was an incredible sighting. Anyway, we sat with him for quite a long time, and there was no activity further. But yeah, good news as always, and it's the first thing I check every single morning when I get to this particular dam, are all the shelbies still there? And they are so far. But if you think that of that attrition rate, we're down to 4 chicks from 9. So that's quite a, you'd normally be happy if you have a 50% survival rate on youngsters out in these environments. Oh, look at the meerkats. There were 5 youngsters and we're down to 2 youngsters. So we're actually going to head up there. Veronica, meerkat habituator, did locate them yesterday, so we are going to be heading up that way now. It'll take us, kind of amble around on the way there because it's quite cool, so it'll take a little bit of time for them to come out. Well, Chelsea Blue has asked a really interesting question in terms of the behavior of ducks. And the question is that would different duck species interact if they were together at the same dam? Yes and no. So if you look at, let's take Egyptian geese, and they are ducks. Don't jump up and down. Egyptian geese are ducks. So you come here and you've got these South African shell ducks, you've got Egyptian geese here, and they're at the same dam. If it's a massive dam, it's a big water body, okay? And there is plenty of food for everyone. Everyone kicks the heels up, relaxes, chills out, swims around, dabbles, eats some food, grazes some grass, comes back, grows chicks. Everyone lives happily ever after, okay? On a dam this size, okay, if you had a pair of Egyptian geese that had to pull in here now, there would be a boxing match of note. Because a dam this size cannot support two pairs of large ducks like that. And our stand to correction is, I think the figures are about half a hectare per shoreline for shell ducks at high densities. I mean, this dam itself isn't even half a hectare. This is a tiny little ephemeral water body, so this will dry up. So this cannot support 2 large pairs of ducks. You've got this little dab chick that's floating around in the middle of you. Oh, no, he's just got underwater. Thank you, dab chick. Well done. It's a little grebe for those of you. Okay, so David did get him. Good job. So even these ducks end up chasing this little grebe around sometimes. Not because there's a huge amount of competition. Remember, he's actually foraging for water, mostly for larger water insects. They're going for smaller, invertebrates in the water, but more like vegetation and that. The shell ducks, so there's not a huge amount of competition. But nonetheless, anything that they even think vaguely could be a threat to these ducklings, they'll go for. David and I had such a laugh the other day. We watched Sheldon, the male, the one with the grey head, chasing a dove for probably 600 meters. He took off chasing this dove and he went full out for it. That dove just managed to keep ahead of the shell duck. And I think what was going on there, remember we've been having youngsters missing in that, and I think it may be that he was thinking that dove, because they do look very similar to gabar goshawks in some ways, so he might have just thought it was a raptor or something. But no, you can get in very intense competition between duck species at the same dam in certain situations.
Welcome back to the Masai Mara, and I have more elephants for you. And here looks like one happy big breeding herd. Lots of females, could be sisters, could be cousins, and their offsprings and previous offsprings. The family structure of elephants is made up of matriarch, her sister, her sisters, and their daughters. In areas where there's abundance of food, areas like here, you find they would have 2 to 3 sisters and their previous offsprings, maybe 2 or 3 with their little calves. So it could be one big extended family and can range from 12 to around 30. All of them, yes, very closely related. They do help in bringing up each other's young. The previous siblings and aunties, we call them allo aunties, where sometimes you will find the adults grazing or browsing at a distance, but the previous offsprings taking care of the young ones. It is very typical to see that. And over here, they are eating, Croton dachogamus. It is a very pepperish and also it has very flaky leaves, but it is loved by elephants. Apart from that, there is many bushes that they can eat here. You can tell that they are very full. They've been eating well, constantly feeding for up to around 20 hours. It is an eating machine. They will eat up to around a quarter ton of food every day and drink lots of water, almost 200 liters a day for fully grown ones. Here, the weight of the females, I would say the big ones here would be a good maybe 4 tons. It's 4 times my Land Rover. And looks like they're heading off into the bushes, maybe for a well-deserved shrub that is in there. The only one that knows could be the oldest female because she is much more experienced. She remembers many things up to around 40 years back when she was taken on a tour, maybe by her mother or auntie previously. So she will take them, there, and it is an automatic imprint to everyone that is existing now that whatever they're going to find and whatever the female is taking them to, the matriarch, they will remember it for as long as they live. It is interesting that this animal, at the start of the 19th century, it was estimated it was over maybe 500,000 in Africa, but now it has been reduced to almost around 200,000. It is shocking. So it is nice to see these many this time and day. The one good thing about them is they have memories. So when they go towards where one was, hurt, either by being shot, being speared, they will move hastily out of that area because they know it is a dangerous area. Also, they can be very cheeky. I've seen them go towards villages that are very close to the park and where they're growing maize. They come very quietly and eat very quietly, but sometimes they make a mistake and they make some noise and they're hard. And when they attack a farm, they can eat quite a lot and damage a lot of, crop.
Welcome back, everyone, to and Beyond Phinda. We've managed to find a really large herd of buffaloes just moving through the grassland here. Now, this herd was apparently in the area yesterday after we had left that female cheetah And so we've checked quite thoroughly for her where we thought she might be. There's a big watering hole that I mentioned earlier with the one of the last remaining ones, and these buffaloes were close to that. So we thought that maybe these buffaloes came across that cheetah and tried to chase her away. So we are still out in the grassland, and we're going to just keep checking around here to see if there's any sign of her, but we'll enjoy these buffaloes for now. You can see they're really spread out. There's lots and lots of them. I think there's maybe close to 70 or 80 buffaloes here. You see the white speck there? That's a cattle egret. Is it hitching a ride? Looks like it's hitching a ride there. Oh no, they're on the ground. They're on the ground, so they're following this herd of buffaloes. Because as the buffaloes move through the long grass, they flush out little insects, and those cattle egrets are able to catch the insects. How many buffalo make up a herd, Susie? So it depends. There can be, I mean, there's herds of, I've seen a herd of about 200, but I've heard of people seeing herds of 400, 500 buffaloes. More typically here on Pinda, we see smaller groups, maybe 20 to 30 buffaloes, but what the herd is made up of is actually smaller family units, and they sometimes split off and do their own thing. It's almost similar to elephants, but in this herd there will be a number of big dominant bulls, and then also some matriarch sort of role cows. And so long and short, well, there is no short answer to your question, but there is no set size of a herd. So, but family groups will stick together. So usually maybe a female and her sister will stay together with their calves, and they will move together. And then sometimes their closest relatives they'll all stick together and then maybe move and choose their own direction. And sometimes the herd will splinter up. But more especially in areas where there are large predators like lions that actually hunt the buffalo, they will congregate in much larger numbers. And here, the lions don't seem to hunt buffaloes. That's not to say that they can't. And so the buffaloes are typically in smaller groups here. So this is actually quite a large group to see this many buffaloes all together on Pinda. Also in the drier times, when they start to lose their fitness because of the amount of nutrients in the grasses that they're feeding on, they might feel a little bit more vulnerable. They might have to move bigger distances to get good grazing and then move all the way back to get water. So they're spending a lot of time and energy moving, and when they move, that's when they're most at risk, because they might walk across something like a pride of lions. So especially now when they have to travel big distances to and from water, we do tend to see them congregating into larger herds. See, there's quite a nice mix of shapes and sizes. There's some old bulls, there's some nice young calves, some cows in amongst the herd as well. And there's also, if Craig goes a little bit to the right, there's one wildebeest, just like that wildebeest in, I think it's in Juma, that's trying to that is following the elephant herd. Maybe he's considering joining this buffalo herd. But it's a really peaceful morning out here, especially after yesterday's wind. And all the animals have come out. I suppose in excitement for how perfect today is. There's not a breath of wind. It's a little bit overcast, so it's cool. I don't think it's going to get too hot maybe if this cloud cover burns off. But we're going to stick in this area and see if we can find that cheetah.
Well, I just repositioned a little bit from the same place I've been before along the Mara River, because one huge, I would guess, male crocodile has come out of the water, and look at his size. Now, what is interesting, if you look at him carefully, look at the tail and see how it's being swung, left, right, left by the water, and he doesn't seem, I don't know whether he's conscious of that. I'm calling him a male because of his size, and he is rather dark. Now look carefully on his mouth, and you'll see the teeth are all out. Not all of them, but most of the teeth, you can see them. When we look at some differences between reptiles in the world, this is always a very significant difference between crocodiles and alligators. When crocodiles shut their mouth like this one here, some of the teeth will remain outside the mouth, whereas when alligators shut their mouth, you do not see a single tooth. His eyes are closed, and I cannot tell for a fact whether he is having a nap or just resting. I mean, he just came out of the water. And look on the carapace, look on the under part of this reptile here, and you notice he doesn't have the scales like on the upper part of the body. They look slow, they look very harmless, but you do not want to take chances with these reptiles here. Anything would happen very quickly. I'm wondering how the water is just splashing on his mouth, and he doesn't seem bothered by that, not an inch. TikTok, how often do crocodiles mate? Now, of course, depending on the group, depending on when the females are in season, it has been very difficult for us to know when they mate, because we even rarely see them mating. And my guess is maybe they mate in the water, or maybe they mate outside the water when, in the darkness at night. But it's very difficult, TikTok, to give you an exact answer on how often they mate. But the most interesting story is after they mate, and the female coming out of the water, and she digs herself a nest by the riverbank, lays the eggs in there, and then covers them. They have a very interesting story, TikTok, because unlike the other animals where we get the chromosomes deciding the sex of the babies that will come out once they hatch out from the eggs, the babies of crocodiles, males and females, it's determined by the temperature of the nest. Now, the eggs that tend to be on top of the nest, depending on the heat, they normally come out as male crocodiles, and the eggs below will come out as female crocodiles. There's one interesting fact about crocodiles. Unlike all the other animals where we have the chromosomes X and X for females and X and Y for males, crocodiles and some sea turtles, the sex of their babies is determined by the temperature. It's the white part of the Mara River, and you can see in the background there is one escarpment that we call the Olor escarpment. And having seen one crocodile come out, I got a feeling we'll be seeing a few more also do the same.
Thanks, Gigi. Good luck along the river there. I hope you get some action this morning. You are back with us here in Djuma Private Game Reserve in the Sabi Sands. And we are at one of our favourite watering holes. Just had a few animals come down to drink, but they didn't stick around. Animals are quite tentative when they come down to the water to drink because, well, as you saw, there are crocodiles in many watering sort of places around the continent. I've never seen one in this particular watering hole. This is Treehouse Watering Hole. They've had hippos here before. I haven't seen a crocodile here, but you never know. So animals, when they come down to the water, are always very careful. Because although crocodiles do feed almost primarily on fish, as you see the big giants in the Mara, they feed on migrating wildebeest and zebra. There we go. There's a little, sorry about the aerial. There is a grey go-away bird. You might have heard him a moment ago. Quack! Quack! He's coming down to drink as well. Being a seed eater and a fruit eater, and this is also a bird that's eating at the moment almost exclusively, I would say, the flowers of the knobthorn and the other acacias. Little flower blossoms. Now, birds of prey are a big threat to these birds when they come down to drink, so you'll often find them coming down quite slowly, often in groups, and then also often sit on the edge on a little thorny tree before going down, because birds of prey will take opportunity to hunt these birds. If you're small sparrowhawks and goshawks, falcons, they can come out of nowhere. High speed flying. Talking about birds of prey, BK, I think I might have one for us. You see that big marula over there? A big one. I think, just by looking with my binoculars, that we might have the first Wahlberg's eagle back. The one on the left. Sorry, the one on the left. Yeah, left of that one. There we go. Down and left. There on the... Oh, am I in the right tree? Sorry, I think I'm in the wrong tree. Yeah, sorry, can you go right, eh? And at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, there we go. You see here? Top right. Top right. Right. The tree to the right. Peaks. To the right. There we go, that one. Middle of frame. I think we might have our first Wahlberg's eagle back, everybody. Yes, indeed. Now, that is a migratory bird that moves back down into South Africa for breeding. They are called intra-African migrants. They don't go too far north, and they come back here, and then they spend the time looking for food and getting ready to mate and to breed. And we've had two resident pairs of Wahlberg's eagles for quite some time, and you can see on the back of his head, he's got a little bit of a crest. It stands up a little bit. It's not that clear. We'll try and get a bit closer for you. He's quite far away. But there we go. Yes, indeed. What a wonderful shot. Past the knobthorn acacia. Well, how wonderful. I believe that is the first Wahlberg's eagle to return back, which is a very good sign for the coming of spring.
Welcome back to Ambion Pinde, everyone. We are still sitting with this herd of buffaloes. And they are slowly grazing and moving along. We have seen one or two of them actually lie down. So it seems that they've already had a drink maybe early this morning at the little waterhole that we went to check at. And they've moved off to start grazing for the day. there's a few really nice sets of horns there. And you see that one in the, just to the left of that bush, yeah. She's busy chewing, but she hasn't had her head down in the grass for a while. And what she's busy doing is ruminating. So she's regurgitating the cud and re-chewing it. So we actually looped ahead of these buffaloes to try and get in front of them as they were moving through the grass, and they've all kind of stopped here, and they seem a bit reluctant to pass us. So that's why, as they've settled down, there's some grunting happening. As they've started to settle down, with us being around, they've started to ruminate, which is something that they subconsciously do, and they can even rest and get some proper, or almost sleep, the same amount of rest that they would get sleeping from or while they ruminate. See those big ears pointed in our direction, and then she moves the one back every now and then. A pro is asking what is a buffalo's predator. So the biggest threat for a herd of buffaloes will be a pride of lions. They're almost like arch rivals. They have this war between one another. Buffaloes will try to even kill lion cubs if they come across them, just because they know that they're potentially, or they could potentially be a threat in the future, so they'll try to take them out. But young buffaloes, the leopards have been known to follow herds of buffaloes and look for young buffaloes and try and pick them off when the adults are not watching. But a buffalo herd has the strength in numbers, and they're not afraid to defend themselves or one of the fellow herd members from lions or other predators.
So we're on our way up to the meerkats, but we just bumped this pale chanting goshawk on top of the sociable weaver nest. But what a setting that is. That massive old tree, huge nest, and then perched right on the top there is our nemesis, the pale chanting goshawk. Well, not the birds itself, but their nest. And we are slap bang in the middle of nesting season, and I've yet to find their nest. That is embarrassing. But I'll get it right. Maybe next year or the year after, on my birthday. But these birds are really interesting. You know, you actually think, oh, there's just two of them, because the other one's actually further behind us. He's just out of sight now, but he just came flying over. But their peak laying dates are July, August, September. So we're in it. We right here now. So, you know, it's just literally a matter of finding the nest. And when we saw the other one further back, Moritz actually spotted it, and I was like, oh, geez, it's great if we're only seeing one bird, because that means the other one is almost certainly close by on a nest somewhere. We drive 100 meters down the road, here's the second one sitting out in the open, so that didn't work. But, yeah, I do need to find this nest. We'll get it. I was just reading up on them as well. Those nests are quite interesting. You know, like a lot of your birds, as we know, they line the nest with feathers and soft vegetation and stuff. Sarah H. has said, what a huge nest. Absolutely. That's a sociable weaver nest. It's the largest nest of any social breeding bird in the world. So, and that nest is a very average size nest for swallow. We've got nests here that are 4 or 5 times that size, literally. I mean, they get immense, absolutely immense. So I've seen goshawk nests on the top of these sociable weaver nests, but very, very, very infrequently. I don't think that's a typical nesting thing. They like making a little platform of branches. And then so I was reading up on it. It's quite interesting. They'll actually line the nest on the inside. They've used regurgitated lion pellets. Lions, like any cats, they'll throw up like hair and that kind of stuff and bits of bone and that. So they've actually been recorded using lion pellets, lining the nest with ostrich dung sometimes. So it's like really odd, really weird. There's preening. So that feather maintenance is always important. It almost looks like he's ready to fly off somewhere. Sometimes they poop just before they fly. So they cock their tail, poop, and then they fly off. So if you're ever bird watching or you're into photography and you want to get that like in-flight shot as it takes off, when a bird poops, you know it's about to take off. It's a fairly cool morning out here this morning. It's a lot cooler than it was yesterday. Yes, yesterday was like mild. It was but then we had all that cloud cover, which really helped in terms of trapping heat. But this morning, no, it's a bit cooler. Like I said, at least, oh, look, that's nice. So when you see that, that kind of gives you a better idea of the scale of what you're looking at there. And the mountains are way out to the left-hand side of the frame. About... There you go, there's the mountains there. I love those kind of like wide shots because it just really gives you a feel for the landscape that all these species that we're looking at are functioning in. Yeah, whether it's a tree or that nest or that goshawk or whatever. You know, it really just gives you a good understanding, appreciation of the vastness of the area. Come, goshawk, reveal to us where your nest is. Well, that's not going to happen. Like, in evolutionary terms, they've spent their entire life trying to hide their nest, and then Smith comes along and expects to find it.
Good morning from a very grey and gloomy day here at Pryden's, but at least we've got some elephants and a couple of very chirpy birds as well. My name is Taylor McCurdy, and on camera with me today is Sebastian Rombi, and we are all wrapped up trying to keep nice and warm as the cold weather is upon us. But hopefully it'll be gone soon. I think by tomorrow the weather probably would have warmed up a little bit nicer. But here we have just some male elephants all feeding. We actually had the breeding herd a couple of minutes ago, but they're moving into an area where we just can't get signal. So we thought that we would just hang out with the boys for a little bit. Here's one of the bigger bulls within the herd, just munching away. They seem to have pushed over an acacia of sorts and are now chomping on it. You can see some stuff falling out of his mouth. He's very carefully trying to snap little twigs. There's some leaves. Very tasty. These particular trees are very nutritious and often a firm favorite from any of the animals that do a bit of browsing. So they'll be very happy about that. You can see, look at that. It doesn't mind the thorns, eh? It's amazing. But those thorns are actually very flexible. They're not particularly solid and quite hard. So if an elephant does wrap its trunk around, or a giraffe does the same thing with its tongue, they're able to hold on tight and often just strip the leaves. That's what the giraffe will do, but the elephant doesn't mind eating some of those small twigs. They look nice and juicy, nice and supple, so it won't be too difficult for this elephant to chomp on those. Now, Sartaj, the lifespan of an elephant can be anywhere from 50 years to about 70 years or so. But an elephant very rarely will die of old age. Normally what happens is, it's quite a sad process, in fact, is that an elephant runs out of teeth. basically. They wear down to the point where they can't chew their food very well, or even at all. So elephants have about 6 sets of molars that come through at different stages of their life when they start to wear down. If they have to replace them too quickly because they're not eating nice soft vegetation, you can imagine if it was just winter, dry season all the time, their teeth would wear down a lot quicker, having to grind down thorns and twigs and branches and bark, and I'm sure a lot of this vegetation has a lot more sand on it too, so that all wears the teeth down quite quickly. So it's a very, very slow process. So these elephants at this time of the year are also starting to feed along drainage lines and closer towards dams where the vegetation might still have some greenery to it or be a bit more lush than some of the stuff growing away from water sources. And you typically see that with older elephants too. As those teeth start to wear down, it becomes more and more difficult for an elephant to eat its daily calorie intake, which is quite sad. It's very, very sad. But these young boys won't have that problem at all. Right. Now what we're going to go and do is you're all going to go and have a look and learn a little bit more about the family dynamics of elephants.
Elephants have fascinated us for so long because they display the same social complexities and full emotional range of our own human species. Mothers, sisters, cousins, and aunts live in herds while the bulls wander the wilderness as bachelors. Cows live in the same herd from birth until the end of their life, some 60 years later. The herd is led by the oldest and wisest female, the matriarch. She's not only responsible for leading the herd, but also dishing out discipline to the often unruly teenagers. With their flappy ears, floppy trunks, and folded skin, baby elephants have the cuteness edge over their human counterparts. Like toddlers, they are playful, curious, and love rolling about in the dirt. Human voices and vehicles provide endless entertainment for bored little elephants, and they, in turn, are always a source of amusement for us. Exploring is the main source of calf entertainment, but it's a scary and sometimes prickly world out there, and Mum is thankfully never far off. Bulls become boisterous when they hit puberty, and this irritates the matriarch. Once she's had enough, she will boot them out of the herd to find their own way in the world. Like playground bullies, the young males fight for dominance, sometimes with extreme violence. The older bulls live alone but mentor these young bucks. It is these fellows that are the ultimate gentlemen of the wilderness.
How incredible is it to be able to learn a little bit more about elephants and their behavior and how the different members in the herd interact with one another. What I quickly wanted to point out here is we were driving along and we came across some elephant dung. Now, if you look at the shape of it, you'll see it's a very tubular shape, almost like a barrel shape. And then inside, if I would go and break this apart, you'll notice that there's quite a lot of plant material in terms of there'll be leaves in here, there'll be pieces of bark, there'll be grass, there'll be seeds. There's quite a lot of different plant material in here. But what I would like to know from our viewers is why is elephant dung orange in color? There's a specific reason for that. I'd like to know. So also another thing I want to point out with elephants, so you can imagine whenever they feed, they need to eat quite a bit. So this elephant, I'm sure, would have been, just based on the size, would have been an adult. So they'll have to eat at least 150 kilograms of food a day in order to sustain that big body, in order to keep them going. Now, if I look on the inside here, you'll notice that there's quite a lot of coarse material. But if you compare that against something like a giraffe, now a giraffe is also a big animal, like some of the big male giraffes can weigh over a ton. But if you look at the size of their dung, compare that against the elephant. And that is because when an elephant feeds it, it goes right through the digestive system and then drops out. Whereas with a giraffe, they are ruminants. So they feed, and then break it down and then bring it back up again, chew it again and feed and off it again. So if you break it up, you'll notice it's very, very fine in comparison to that of elephants. So really interesting. But I would like to know from the viewers why the elephant dung is orange in color. So with the cameraman, I'll probably make sure that I'll serve some coffee with these clean hands.
Okie dokie. We have another elephant bull who is much larger than the rest of the bulls that have been feeding. He really threw his weight around. He came marching through the bushes. He didn't dodge one of them. It's like he was trying to announce that he was coming on through. And he then pushed that other younger bull we were watching right out of the way and thought, right, I'll just carry on and finish up on this tree. Thank you very much. So you can see he's much older, even just by looking at his face. He looks a lot more worn. And if you look just above his eyes and sort of where his temple is, you can see how sunken that part of his head is. And that's another good way to kind of age animals, or especially elephants, this is particularly to elephants, is that the older they get, the normally sort of more sunken these cavities sort of become. So it's another thing that you can kind of use, because it can be quite tricky to age elephants. It takes a lot of experience, and even then we don't get it right. But we just give a rough kind of estimation, looking at their overall size, looking at that part. You can look at the wear and tear on their tusks, which this bull only has one. Not very big tusks, though, but that doesn't really necessarily define his age. Unfortunately, we're seeing a decline in big tuskers, especially here in southern Africa. Well, that's quite sad. Not our really big elephant bull, Kumo, that we see on a regular basis. He's much larger than this fella, but this guy is somewhere in between. And he's got an interesting tear in his ear too. So that's a way that I often use to identify elephants. Obviously, you've been watching leopards and lions, and we're able to identify individuals. We can do the same thing with almost any animal. But elephants, it's a lot easier. Because on their ears, with it being such thin skin, you often get interesting shapes. So that could have been a tear from when he was much younger. Maybe it hooked on a thorn. Maybe it was a bit rough with one of his siblings or cousins or whatever running around in the herd, and his ear got torn, but it heals quite quickly. So you can look for that. Otherwise, their tusk shape and any other interesting features that you can find on an elephant. But I'll remember this bull from right here with the tear sort of in the middle of his ear. But he's lovely. Everyone is very calm and peaceful. Yesterday, the elephants were trumpeting and rioting around, so I think that they are happy that the wind has died down, but now we just needed to warm up.
I have a very calm and peaceful waterbuck here, too, although he is giving me quite a stern look at the moment. But very, very peaceful. Sometimes I think that they look like principals or teachers. Hi everyone, it's me, Trishala, with Theo on camera this morning at Juba Game Reserve. I've just been smacked in the face by a branch, just why my lip is a little bit It looks like I have lipstick on. Theo got slapped in the foot with a branch the other day. So, we're matching. Swollen foot and swollen lip. Our waterbuck doesn't care too much about that. So he's busy going about his day, having something to eat. He's not too far from a water source. Waterbucks love to be around water. Generally between, say, a 5K radius and a 2K radius. Most of the time they try to be within 2Ks of a water source. They're water loving. And he is on his own because the bulls are fiercely territorial. And those white markings on their face that I said to you, he looks like he's quite stern, the way that he's looking at me. Those white markings are meant to emphasize that kind of very serious face and posture that they take when they want to advertise themselves in their territories to cows and their offspring that come through. They'll try to secure a territory that includes a water source as well as good grazing. And as females come through, he'll try to keep them in his territory. Macy, that's a really, really interesting thought. You'd like to know if different antelope are territorial towards other antelope, not of the same species. Well, by definition, being territorial means that you are defending a patch of land and resources against your own species. And that is because you are because you're the same species, you have the same requirements of the environment. So you want to secure certain parts of it just for yourself. Now, within antelopes, you have browsers and grazers and mixed feeders, but they're all just a tiny bit different. Maybe they take long grass, maybe they take short grass, maybe they're only browsing today, maybe they're mixed feeders like impala. So they generally will not defend their territory against other antelope because everyone is after the same type of resource but just a little bit different. Whether it is height, maybe a giraffe is only going to or can get to the tops of trees that other antelope can't get to. So it's looking at different, almost as if a niche is even more specified and sectioned out into more specific niches. Giraffe, the tops of trees, then a kudu, slightly taller than what an impala can reach. So even though everyone's after vegetation, there's actually no need to exclude other antelopes from your territory. But that's an interesting question because you often don't think about that. And you see them together quite often. Whole lots of different antelope. I am going to head up towards the Buffelshoek Dam. That was the plan for the morning. Hopefully there'll be some elephants playing around.
Welcome back to Ambient Pinda. We are still sitting with this herd of buffalo. There's lots going on. We've just found this one, looks like a young bull, and he's found a stump that he's busy rubbing on. He's got it between his legs now. And he's just shifting his body around it and making sure he scratches every little piece. Or every little itchy bit. But I think he's done now. That'll be his mom, just to the right of him. And he will stick with her for about 4 or 5 years, quite close to her side, and after that he'll move out and become he'll join a bachelor group, usually made up of other young bulls like himself and some much older bulls, and he will try to learn from those older bulls. When he's big enough and strong enough, he might come back to this same herd or perhaps another herd and try to take on some of the dominant bulls in the herd and fight for mating rights. Look at that calf in the road there. It's quite a young one in the road at the moment, walking straight towards that egret. And off she goes. So we've just been sitting and watching them as they cross this road. They seem to be moving up into quite a thick area with some good shade. The sun is starting to peek through, and I think that these buffaloes are going to definitely be moving into a shady area, because when it gets hotter today, they're going to lie down. JP, 100% buffaloes. So the question is, do buffaloes suffer from foot and mouth disease? And yes, they do. That is a bovine disease, and it is transmitted from cattle to wild animals like buffaloes. And so game reserves like us, we have to do our best to make sure that there is no interaction between buffaloes and cattle on the outside. So what a lot of places that we, like us, we've got an extra fence. So there's our perimeter fence, and then 5 meters from that perimeter fence there's another sort of smaller fence, and that is to keep the cattle at a distance of about 5 meters from our fence at all times, because they'll come and smell and urinate, defecate, and then potentially our buffaloes would go to if for some reason they were along the fence line, they would go and investigate, smell the dung and smell the urine of the cows. Just instinctively they would do that. That's their behavior, and they would be able to pick up the disease like that. So it is something that we have to consider. Sorry. Comes a little one onto the road again. Still lots of egrets following this herd, and we hear the oxpeckers every now and then looking for ticks on these buffaloes. Oh, and we've got some joining us very close on our right hand side. Sorry about my head. So we're gonna, from here, most of the buffaloes have already crossed the road. They're heading up the hill into some shade. We're going to carry on and finish checking through this area if there's any sign of that cheetah.
Well, we'll always get the young ones running to the mothers because they'll feel much secure there. And the same case would happen here should we have calves of these hippos in any sort of danger. You'll always see them very quickly running to the mothers. Now this hippo has come out very close to where we got the crocodile, and look where she's turning around, and whether that's her back. And if you look carefully, she got some injuries, or her skin looks to be wounded. And once in a while we have seen hippos using the very long canine teeth, fighting each other. And it is these small little wounds that they have will get ox pickers sometimes coming to land on them to try and get some blood from them. You see how she blends in there very well? And you can see the color of the water is much brown. If you're watching yesterday morning, it wasn't as this brown. And to me, this is an indication there were big rains upstream, and definitely there's a bit of erosion as the water has been coming downstream. The rapids still continue, and I usually wonder whether this affects the behavior of these animals here, either the crocs or the hippos. When the rapids, sometimes I like calling waterfalls, get even bigger. The other day we were just sitting here, and all of a sudden we had the rapids, the sound went up without, knowing, and wondered what happened, and then we it must have rained upstream, and as the water came building up, of course, we expected that to happen, but it caught us off guard. You can see how far now the water has come. When we got here, the water wasn't where it is now. It was about much inside, by another 1 meter, which would mean maybe the rains might have continued overnight and the water levels will keep going up and edging towards the riverbank. I wouldn't expect any antelopes to come and have a drink now because it's still a bit cold, and I was just saying before, they could be feeding on some grass that is quite wet and full of moisture. Our croc hasn't moved from where it was. We've still got more hippos trying to show up their heads. And once they breathe, they have enough oxygen, they may go under for a couple of minutes before they show up again. It's warming up nicely now, and I'm looking at more hippos coming out of the water.
From talking about elephant dung to actually seeing elephants. Now, there's quite a big herd of elephants near the river, and what could be is early part of the morning, elephants tend to feed close to the river where tend to be a lot more greener trees. The grass tends to be a bit more lusher because of the water around, and you can see this one right here in front of us, how she's picking the grass and then flicking it against her chest or against her leg and then putting that into her mouth. And what she's just basically trying to do is get rid of the sand, because with that sand it wears down the teeth quite a bit. Now, just right off to the side there's a young calf that's moving through the tall grass. Now, it's really hard to see, but we might just pick up some movement soon. So if you move like that, there we go. So you'll notice as soon as that youngster moves too far off, either you will turn around and head back to mom, or mom will slowly start to follow the youngster. But there's quite a few birds here. So from where that elephant was, just left of it, there's right in the middle, it's going to be hard to explain, but I'm going to try and see if we can get this. But right there, right in the middle, you'll see there's a bird with a lot of beautiful colors. You'll notice there's a dash of white around the bill, bit of blue on the side. It was chased by this other bird called the Birchall starling. But what I want to describe, so that was a lilac-breasted roller, and then this bird that just chased it off that perch is Birchall starling. So why they're here is because as these elephants are moving, disturbing the grass, there's a few insects, maybe grasshoppers or anything that will fly up, and they'll go and catch it. Now on top of that, there's another interesting bird up in the tree. So where the bigger elephant is, just on top of that, there's a tree without any leaves, and there's a few birds jumping around there. Now I want to see if we can find out exactly which ones those are, but it sounded like a shrike of some sort just by the call. Maybe, let me just see if I can get my binoculars on it. Oh, they refer to as Retz's helmet shrikes. So they are a very nice bird to see for the area. Now, I just want to see if I can get another glimpse. If I don't get another glimpse, I'll try and see if I can get in the book, but they have moved further away. I just want to listen. There's some zebras that got a fright on this side, and all the elephants started running off. Now, remember earlier on we said there were tracks of lions coming into this area? Now, I wonder if it wasn't the lions that gave these elephants and the zebra a fright. So the zebra running off to the right. Let's slowly move forward. Maybe that pride is somewhere here. Now, that's the pride of 18 lions that are around. So the last tracks we had, we're coming down here now. There's more elephants that side, and the zebra just ran on our right. You can see some of the younger elephants also turned around and started running off. We'll keep a good lookout as we move through here. Linda, so for some of you with the quiz on the elephant dung, so the actual reason why it has that orange color is because of the tannins. So that's the chemical that you find in the cambium layer that eventually produces that very orangey color. You also find it in wines as well. But well done for most of our viewers. All I heard was all our viewers. So there's a young elephant right in the middle of the road. There's actually a few off to the right as well.
So, some fantastic work having been done by Veronica, meerkat habituator. She's relocated this group and they are back at what we call the Boskia burrows. Remember, Boskia are these big shepherd's trees. The nest that we were looking at earlier with the goshawk perched on top there, that big sociable weaver nest, that tree with a lovely white stem, that's a shepherd's tree, or also known as a Boskia albitranca. And that's where these meerkats are back at this particular burrow system here. They're not out yet. Remember I mentioned earlier how cool it is this morning. It's not cold. It's not by any means a freezing cold morning. It is just considerably cooler than it was yesterday, which means they're more likely to get up a little bit later. But I think not too long. I think it's going to be the next minutes they're going to be up. And again, we just do the routine scans around. There's nothing untoward that's been around these burrows last night. I'm still on the lookout for badgers, but nothing yet. A lot of brown and hyena tracks up and down. There's been a stack of giraffe activity in the area. A lot of mice. But like I say, nothing that's going to impact on these little badgers for the moment. So all good, all good.
I am so glad to see this. This is a tree wisteria, and you can see its beautiful purple flowers. And well and truly signifies the end of the dry season. That's when you see these clusters form. Just lovely. It's the first one that I've seen with flowers. All the others I've seen didn't have any flowers yet, so this is well and truly the end, at least indicated by our tree wisteria, or Balusanthus speciosus. These little clusters look like grapes almost. Beautiful lilac flowers. The whole bush will start to explode with flowers very soon. End of the year, you're going to get all those lovely lion's eyes. You're going to get the African wattles with their yellow flowers. And hopefully more of the tree wisteria's flowers too. The knobthorns have flowers on them. Oh, it just feels like spring is upon us. But like I said, these ones do signify the end of the dry season when you get these great clusters of these mauve flowers forming. Now the leaves of the tree wisteria are very, very pretty as well. Quite shiny. And a really pretty green. And they are deciduous, so you can see that most of the leaves on this tree has fallen. But there's some right at the top there. And then there's a younger specimen just off to the left that does have some leaves on it, slightly shorter guy. There we go. It also looks like it has a basketball hoop through it. That should be fun. Lenma, you'd like to know which animals would feed on these flowers. Baboons and monkeys like them very much. Vervet monkeys and baboons, they especially like them. And as you can imagine, they won't last long when baboons and vervet monkeys like them. Vervet monkeys also especially like leopard orchids. Another one that's flowering at the moment, that one at Chitwa. Just stunning. My favorite bit about this tree is the color of these flowers. You can see that it's quite windy. The shape of the leaves, and I said that I really like the leaves, the color is really bright yellow, but the shape of the leaves remind me a lot of like a eucalyptus tree. And even the way that they fall reminds me a lot of that. But the color is much yellowy green as opposed to the gray blue green that you see with eucalyptus trees. Awesome. Well, we're going to move on and find some other special things.
Welcome back to And Beyond Pinde, everyone. We found these, well, there's actually 3 side-striped jackals. And if you look at those 2 in screen, there's a lot of posturing going on. They're completely puffed up, and they're walking side by side, trying to show their size. We've come across them while we've been looking for this cheetah, and it looks like there's some kind of, I don't know if it's a territorial thing or a mating ritual, because it looks like there's one female and one male. And then there's a third that's very submissive, and it's lying off to the left in the grass. It looks like things are calming down now. There was a little bit of a tussle earlier, but they all seem to be okay. They are quite a distance away, so it's been quite tough to see males and females, because they are very similar in size. You'd have to see underneath the tail to tell male and female apart. But all we know is that there are these 2 that have been displaying against one another, and then there's a third one that's lying in the grass that's more submissive. And that one on the left has now got its mouth open and looks like it's making some noises, but we are a bit too far away, unfortunately, to hear. See the one on the right, tail up in the air, and you can just see the tip. There we go, look at that, tail right up. Toto, that is correct. They're able to puff themselves up. We can hear a bit of growling now. They're able to puff themselves up, put their hair on end, and in order to make themselves look bigger, so they're puffing almost their entire body, including the tail, up, and then they're arching their backs, and then they're walking side by side, and then there is a lot of urinating and defecating going on. And that one in the front has got its tail standing up, and all the fur standing up on the tail. So they are definitely trying to make themselves appear bigger by making their hair stand on end. That one that's at the back now looks like it's a bit bigger than the one in the closer to us. But I've never seen this before. I'm not 100% sure what is going on. It is a great find, Jane. I'm very excited because I haven't actually seen this kind of behavior before. By now, most of the nocturnal species like jackals have found a place to rest for the day. Jackals more especially hard to see during the day because they go down into burrows. There's the third one. It's just trotting off to the right. But yes, while we were looking for the cheetah, I actually thought it might... Oh, and he's being mobbed by lapwings. These are blacksmith lapwings that are now dive bombing the jackals. He or she, should I say. I haven't been able to tell which of them are males, which are females. But yeah, like I say, they should be down a burrow already, and they're still out. So they've obviously got unsettled or unsolved business out here. It almost seems like they're driving this other one out. And running now. All three of them are off now. So that one that's in the front or the right of your screen is the one that's been submissive the whole time. They're about to run into some zebras, and what I have seen out here is that zebras are not fans of jackals, and we've actually seen the zebras chasing the jackals. So we'll see what happens. This is incredible. I've never seen this. Now they are going a little bit far away from us, so we'll try to keep an eye on them. And you see the zebras are all, well, you can't see now, but the zebras are all watching them. Craig having a bit of a hard time because they've gotten all the way almost past the back of the car to like behind us. See, now the zebras are going a little bit closer. I wonder if the zebras are going to chase them. There we go, zebras running. Oh, there's a dip on that side that I think they've gone down into. I think we'll... Because there is another road there. I think what we're going to do is we're going to try and loop around and see if we can get another look at them, because one of the zebras has definitely given chase. So yeah, we're going to do that now.
Wow, that is absolutely incredible. Grant must be having the time of his life. There's nothing better than seeing animals do something you've never seen before. Here we have a gorgeous giraffe. Oh, I thought they had decided to leave the scene as soon as you came to me, but it looks like they're just looking for another spot of greenery. Oh, they're up near the fire break. The northern fire break. Very nice, relaxed. And we're so lucky that we're seeing so many of them lately. Now on the fire break, the trees that are actually sprouting are much shorter than, say, you'd have in the drainage or in flatter parts of Djuma. And I love watching them bend over to actually feed. Some biologists have theorized that males feed at the tops of trees while females feed towards the bottom of trees. But it is, in my opinion, not something I've seen. I've seen both male and female. We have two males here. I've seen both of them bend down to feed, stretch up to feed, etc. The most reliable way to figure out the sex of an animal is to simply look at its undercarriage. Yes, I'm so sorry to do that to you, giraffe, but that is the most reliable way to figure out if you're male or female. Now, giraffes, they also have ossicones. Those are two horn-like things at the tops of their heads. And you can see that they are rounded. And that comes from males actually fighting with each other, rubbing against posts and things like that, that bald those ossicones. And look at those eyelashes. Gorgeous. Beautiful, tall animals. And when they walk, it's really, really special going across the African landscape.
Hello and welcome back to the Mara. And here I found a lioness desperately looking for something in all directions. She doesn't look very hungry, but she is definitely looking for something. From where she is, it is a bit, hard to tell which pride she is from. Behind her is the Salt Lake Pride area. A long ways back there, and off to the right of the screen is the SSP, Sausage Tree Pride area, and behind me is the Mugoro Pride area. So I don't know which pride she is from, but she is definitely a beautiful lioness. Very, very, strong. See her? Very, very big, mature. So she's definitely part of a pride. From where she is, she's got a very good vantage point to, pinpoint or see anything moving. But far and wide, there is nothing. But with her keen sense of sight, I'm sure she will be spotting something. Yes, beautiful yawn. Look at, those canines, sharp, ready to pierce through skin. Usually that is a good sign of being restless. So we might see a movement, in a while. Like I said, the beautiful eyesight is what she's using, the keen sense of sight. This is all live from the Masai Mara, the Mara Triangle. You can talk to us on hashtag CGTNWild, hashtag Wild Earth. That's where you can communicate to us, tell us, something. Questions are very welcome. I'm staying with her for a little bit longer, so don't go far.
Welcome back to South Africa, Djuma. We've been very blessed to have a up-close and personal interaction with this herd of elephants. Unfortunately, they are now all going behind the car. That was very special. They all walked right next to us and stopped right in front of us as the big mama checked us out, spoke to the whole herd, and then they all moved across the road. Very blessed to be in situations like that. It is live, as Isaac says, and now they've gone into the bushes, so we're going to try relocate to see if we can get you another position by going around that way. Okay, let's see if we can get you these elephants again, just around the corner. Back with us. Sorry about that, everybody. We're about to catch up with our herd again, and they're pretty relaxed, so we might be able to just position ourselves in a way that they come towards us. So that is what you want to do. If you know a herd is relaxed, you can position yourself in a way that they'll move towards you. If they come closer, that's okay. That is the way it works. Slowly move here. Oh. Now behind there you might see a little bit of a structure. That is where we get our water from. That comes from the ground. And here come the elephants. I'm just going to be quiet and allow you to just enjoy this wonderful scene. The way that they're moving, it seems as if they're on their way to drink. So I think we'll follow them. Elephants drinking can often be quite spectacular to see. It's just they make lots of noise, they splash. They really just are quite busy animals. Here's a bull who's sort of hanging with the herd, but not really in the middle. He's always on the outskirts. Okay, so when you come back to us, maybe we'll be with the herd at a watering hole.
Welcome back to the Mara, and I'm with my unknown lioness in the middle of the plains. There's no tree, near us, only a sea of grass surrounding us, and in between me and her is about 30 meters. She's there sleepy, but every now and then she's staying up and looking around. I'm hoping she's gonna spot something and decide to make breakfast. Remember, lions don't need to eat every day, but if an opportunity prevails itself, it is a cat that is known to feed every day, gorge itself with as much meat as possible, build up extra fat, so in lean times it can go for up to 14 days without eating. She is a very, very mature female. I would give her a good, 6 years. She's got no worry in the world and looks very healthy. And the alertness tells me that either she hasn't eaten in about 3 days, 4 days. The reason she's all here by herself, I don't know. If she's going to, stands up, I will be able to tell. Maybe she's around here, maybe because she's got some cubs that she's hiding somewhere, and that's why she's separated from everybody else. It is typical for the first 14 to around a month of birth for a female to exclude herself so that the young ones can get a real imprint and they can get that motherly love and first love that they need, to grow up. Remember, they are fully blind at birth, opening their eyes after around 2 weeks. And after that, they will stay in one area, being moved every about week so that the scent doesn't go too strong to attract, predators that might kill them. At the moment, I'm not saying that she's got any. It's all about a matter of seeing if she's got teats that are being used or mammary glands that are being used. Like I said, you can tell she's up. No cubs at all. She's just a very healthy lioness in the middle of nowhere. She's got no cubs. Her mammary glands haven't been used, but she's a fully grown adult lioness. No much signs to tell who she is. She's got that one notch on her right ear, facing away. Right here, she's got a deep notch and no other markings. And also another left, a notch on the left ear. From where she is, she's looking away, and hopefully she'll catch a tail of a warthog walking through long grass, and that's where the hunt is gonna begin. Remember, lions don't need to waste their energy walking distances looking for wherever they will go for. She can stay where she is, and with her keen sense of sight, she can stop, she can spot something even 500 meters away and can choose either to go for it or wait for it if it's coming in their way. So they utilize their energy, by using the sight. I'm gonna move around, see if you can see her face. Excuse me. And, once more, look at her, and then maybe move on if she's not doing much. And, maybe find something else. I'm gonna stop here for Big James to do his magic with his camera. And remember,
to our elephants, everybody, here at Juma. This young male is following the herd. Let's see how that female reacts to him when he gets a bit closer. His trunk is smelling the ground. If he gets closer to her, she might behave in a certain way. Or maybe he knows just to keep his distance. Might have heard the loud squawking there of a lilac-breasted roller. Jace, you want to know how elephants grow so large, considering the limited diet? Well, the largest mammals on land in the world are all vegetarian. So there's plenty of vegetables around, plenty of vegetation, grass, plenty of trees and leaves. If anything, elephants are the most selective, being a bulk feeder. They're able to access everything, from the shoots of the tallest tree, to the bark, to the leaves of all the trees and grasses and flowers and fruits, and even the roots of the trees as well. So they're very well adapted. Let's just move up a bit so we can get the rest of the herd. Buffalo, rhino, hippo, gorillas, all the biggest animals. They're all exclusively vegetarian. So plenty of vegetables around. There's an abundance of vegetation. There's more vegetation around than there's meat. So we mustn't get confused and think that meat is what makes animals big. There goes our little family, following each other. Little sniff of that's a knobthorn acacia that's had its bark ripped a while ago. These two youngsters are probably going, I like acacias. One day when I'm big, I'll be able to stick my tusk into that bark and rip it myself. You just heard a golden-tailed woodpecker there. There goes a mama with a bit of takeaway food. See, she's got a stick in her mouth that she's going to rotate in the mouth, eating the bark, and then she will drop, leaving the leaves altogether. Process known as corkscrewing. Okay, so they're feeding quite quickly and moving south. So it's almost as if they've decided, okay, we are thirsty, but we also snacky a little bit. So they're going to munch a little bit as they move down, and direction they're going is towards Twin Dams, where we were before. It's possible they might be going to Chelapan, which is a pan that's last I saw pretty dry now. So it's possible, and it's only taken a couple of days for it to dry up. One herd of elephants or one buffalo herd moving through, and these seasonal pans can be completely annihilated, being quite late in the season. To have some of the pans that we still have with a bit of water was quite a good going, to be honest. So they might think Chelapan has got some water. Anyway, bypassing Chelapan, straight on towards Twin Dams. It's possibly the route they're taking. So we'll keep up with them. When you know an area well, when it comes to tracking an animal, obviously we can see where they're going. But if we find their tracks, and they're moving quite quickly. Elephants that are moving slowly are meandering. Lots of feeding, lots of zang, left and right, zigzagging. Elephants that are on the move to drink move quickly along pathways, and you can almost anticipate where you will find them next. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to carry on down this road and see if we can catch up with them at their favourite watering hole.
Welcome back. I'm still here with the beautiful lioness. Very relaxed. Look at the coat with that angle and the sunlight on her coat. It looks very shiny, so it tells you she's doing very well. She's having a lazy morning. I don't know what she's been up to at night. Maybe she's been hunting, trying the whole night and she couldn't make it. So now it's a time to try and get something, but every now and then she has to catch naps to keep her, rejuvenated and getting back into hunting mode when she's well rested. From where she is, I don't know what she sees, but I'm sure she can still, see a very long way. And here, what I would think she would go for would be warthogs. When everybody is gone, the warthogs really get hammering. They're also not easy to catch because they have very good eyesight, if they're looking in the right direction. Also very keen sense of smell. And apart from that, it's not always that lionesses are successful to catch them because they are very, very aggressive, and with their tusks that are always sharpening one another, they can really cause serious harm, even death, to cats like this. So they're not also a walk in the park. The lionesses have to be really, really careful. But considering her size and age, I would say she's very, very experienced. Felicity, thank you for your question. You asked if it could be dangerous for her if she crosses into another pride's territory. Of course, and that could be fatal for her. And maybe that's why she's very alert. They are very careful to crisscross one another's territory, but territories are always to be fought, about every day. They do know their boundaries. They do know, where, their limits, where to reach. And maybe she's in her territory. I would say, she's very lost because I don't know which pride she is from. She could be in her territory. And if she is not, which sometimes it happens, when prides become too big, you find lionesses sometimes split to try and find, territories that are not occupied with a male, or they can be invited to, prides that have got fewer females, which is also not easy because she has to face a lot of clawing, a lot of biting, and discrimination before she is welcome. So it does happen that they split, form new prides, but right now we cannot conclude on anything because she's in the middle of nowhere, and we don't know if she belongs to a pride or not. So she is definitely in a risk if she's not from a pride or from this area.
Finally, they are out of bed. Can you believe it? And Moritz, David and I were just chatting also with Veronique, saying, it's quite difficult to determine exactly what drives like a wake-up time in any animal. You can say, it's the sun rose and they had to get out of bed kind of thing. Or it could just be that maybe they had like a really good foraging day yesterday, which means they didn't have any huge rush to get out. Very, very typically, though, if the times are tough and they're battling for food, they'll normally get up quite quickly and they head out. They don't spend too much time on burrow maintenance and sunning themselves, that kind of stuff. So when I'm seeing a group like this, with these two pups, the 5 adults, and they're actually getting up later, they're spending quite a bit of time at the burrows, it probably tells you, though, that although we are actually past the heart of winter now, we're going to slowly start moving to summer, but really we're going into a harsh time now as temperatures are picking up. They're actually getting plenty of food to sustain them, so I don't think there's any issues with this little group. Veronique was saying something interesting, though, is that one of the other burrow systems that they're going to frequently, they're not actually using it at the moment, but it's right in the periphery of the area and adjacent to the next colony of meerkats or group of meerkats. And that group is 8 individuals, so there could be a big boxing match at some point. So we'll just keep our eyes on these little guys and just see what happens over the coming weeks. But I'm hoping that they've stabilized to this point now where we've got the 2 pups. What is really cool in this group, really, really cool, and we're going to be for this, is that the beta female, in other words, one of the subordinate females here, seems to be heavily pregnant. Which means we're going to be having even more meerkat pups. And that, one of the things I just wanted to point out to you is we often see these groups as dominated by a single female, and that gets expounded on regularly. People are like, oh, you know, meerkats it's one female that breeds in the group. It's not true at all. And very often it's just like time in the bush, observation, and whatever literature you go through, when you're talking to people, if your guide says something, don't be shy about questioning it. Lions sleep for 18 hours a day. Lions don't sleep for 18 hours a day, okay? They might be resting, sleeping on and off. Lions do not sleep for 18 hours a day. So don't be shy of questioning. If I say these meerkats are green, ask me, are you sure they're green? Taylor May has asked a great question there. And do meerkats regulate their own temperature? Absolutely. So that's what we call endotherms. You get endotherms and ectotherms. So an ectotherm would be something like a monitor lizard. Remember that old Mr. Monitor lizard that we saw sneaking out of the tree a little while back? So he's heavily dependent. Well, not even heavily. He is totally dependent on external temperatures. So he needs to be able to get enough heat to be able to warm his body up from the sun as a source, you know, or your ambient temperature being high enough for him to start moving and becoming active. And that's also crucial, because if you got an ectotherm like that eats a big meal and then you go into these super cold temperatures, that can present problems in terms of digestion and that kind of stuff. But be that as well. So these little guys are what we call endotherms. In other words, they're producing their own body heat. That comes at a cost as well. Because you're producing your own body heat, it means you need lots and lots of energy right through the year in order to be able to do that in these environments. If you get an exceptionally extreme environment, and I'm talking about like the deep Arctic, you know, where you get animals that actually hibernate, the reason they hibernate in places like that is, number one, there's not an abundance of food, and if you don't have an abundance of food, you can't actually get enough energy to sustain daily activity patterns. So what do you do? Okay, all right, well, let me just hibernate. Okay, you get an opposite extreme to that as well, called estivation, A-E-S-T-ovation, and that is essentially the opposite of going into torpor due to very, very cold temperatures. Estivation means you'll go into torpor due to extremely high temperatures. But the ultimate objective is the same, to save energy. So these little guys, they do produce their own body heat, but because they're so small, is that they can lose energy at a phenomenal pace. And very, very typically, the smaller an animal is, the larger its body surface relative to its mass, which means that they can lose heat a lot faster, and heat is energy. So if they're losing that needs to be replaced. And if you look at, so we've got these gorgeous, gorgeous little shrews here. If I could show you a shrew on Wild Earth, I would be the happiest camper on the planet. Second happiest camper on the planet. But so anyway, so these little shrews, in Afrikaans we call them skierbekkies, and you get them like across the world, but they have to like eat like constantly. Those little guys are just going, because they are just little tiny little bundles of energy, and they just need to go through food in order to sustain themselves. So yeah, meerkats produce their own body heat.
Good luck, Dylan. And one big difference in terms of habitat from where Dylan is in the Kalahari and where we are in the Masai Mara is sources of water or water points. Well, we've been here very patiently, and I guess our patience could be paying some fruits now, because we've got a single topic there coming very close to the water, plonking, but also very carefully, because she knows what she might be leading herself into. looks left and right, like how when we cross roads from where we come from in the villages, we'll always stop on these big roads, on those big roads, to make sure there's no car coming. And I'll not, I'll not be surprised to see this hippo behaving the same way. Excuse me. Oops, you see what I was just talking about? There we go. I'm just about to say well done, Toppy. Well done, excellent, very well done. 2 crocs almost came for her, but she has made it. Excellent. How courageous for you to cross that dangerous river. I think as soon as she got to the edge, she made a decision very quickly, and it was like, time to go. Katie, very true. That one is a very brave Toppy. I haven't seen many others doing that, especially knowing that she was single, not with the rest of the herd. And not only that, there were no other species of other animals, like, wildebeest around, or zebras around, or hartebeest. But she made a decision on her own. You know what? I need to get on that other side. I don't see anybody who can identify myself with. I need to go. I know the dangers in this water, and there could be crocs in it, or some lions on the other end laying ambush. I'm going, I'm doing it, and she just did it. That was quite exciting. For me, I would want to say it could be the very first time I've seen a single animal, and more so a Toppy, crossing the Mara River on her own. That was an exciting moment. And this is what CGTN Digital Safari is all about. Here, a lot of patience and waiting is very, very important. If you come to the bush, you always learn. Choose a spot if you want, stay there and wait, and it will unravel or unfold every few minutes. Something will be happening that will be different. The rapids continue on the Mara River. Nothing has changed. It hasn't gotten any warmer, so that's why I would say the crocs haven't come out. And that was an exciting moment. Apparently, the Masai Mara and Juma have, let me say, very different habitats. The Mara has more open areas, huge grasslands that we call the savanna. The Juma has lots of thickets, and we're going to learn more about the same.
The Masai Mara lies in the Great Rift Valley. It is home to a multitude of animals. The landscapes range from riverine forests to vast plains to volcanic hills. Running through the landscape, a watery lifeline. Rain is a necessity and plays an important role in this ecosystem. It nourishes the grasses, floods the marshes, and feeds the Great Mara River. The river flows for about 395 kilometers, originating in the Kenyan highlands from the Mau Escarpment. streaming down and eventually draining into Lake Victoria in Tanzania. Water is life. This river is a core artery of the Mara. It is a safe haven for hippos and birds. But it provides the ultimate challenge for the wildebeest during the Great Migration. This annual event is one of the natural world's most astonishing spectacles. Nature favors strength. Their migratory routes are determined by the rain patterns as they wander in constant pursuit of water and fresh grass.
That is the pursuit of all animals, resources. And yes, the strongest survive. And that means they can reproduce to create even stronger and more resilient individuals. It's better for the entirety of the species. Here you're looking out onto Djuma, where our landscape is slightly different from the Mara, where there's open grasslands. Here we have a broad-leaved woodland, or Combretum woodland. Lots of Combretums, as the name suggests, knobthorns, marulas, and of course the fine-leaved trees as well, like acacias, which also a knobthorn is part of, a Senegalia, and Vachilia. Those are the two categories that acacias now fall into. Our landscape is a lot more bushy, dry, but the rains also come to us and just brighten up the whole bush. Before you know it, it gets thick and lush, and seeing any kind of animal and game becomes more difficult, but the bush just becomes more beautiful.
Look how cute those are. And what is absolutely incredible is just the speed that these little ones are growing at. And if you go back 3 weeks ago, just completely different animals. And it just shows the amount of energy, coming back to that question last time, in terms of being an endotherm and, generating your own body heat and that kind of stuff for activity. The amount of food that you've got to go through, and just think at this growing stage, and all of us know it. You get a puppy and a puppy's cute, and 6 months later it's like almost an adult already. So we're kind of like aware of it, and your parents always say, oh, my kids are growing so fast. But just think of that amount of energy that's going into doing that. And, if you look at the two evolutionary parallels, if you got an ectotherm that's relies on your ambient temperature for survival and that kind of stuff, there's also benefits to that, because it means you don't have to be running around morning, noon, and night trying to get energy. But it also comes at a price. These little guys, with the rise of the mammals, there's just a whole lot of advantages there. So if you are able to run out and catch your prey or eat a plant, as long as you're able to do that, it'll enable you to persist in environments where other things actually just can't live. So I'm really curious, and you can see this one standing on the right, just on the right-hand side of the frame, that big one staring at David, like David, what are you not telling us about these meerkats? Is there something you know that we don't? Because that one is really looking at you like with longing, David. But anyway, that meerkat seems to be heavily pregnant. And I can jump up and down and get excited. I'll only get excited when I see pups. Because I also have this kind of like thing of, if you name something, something's going to happen to it, aka Shelby's. But those Shelby ducklings are growing at a phenomenal rate as well. They are probably 5 times, 6 times the size that they were when we first saw them. So, yeah, things are happening out here.
It is indeed, and how exciting. I remember how excited Dylan was last time with the pups. But we've managed to catch up with our herd, who has slowed down quite substantially here in Djuma. And this youngish female gave us a little bit of a funny look before, and then I spoke to her gently. And then she started feeding. It's a typical sort of behavior of an elephant that's been caught doing something they shouldn't be doing. She kind of did a little small jog towards us. I thought I'd be scared, but I wasn't. And then she felt a bit embarrassed that we weren't scared. Now she's decided to stop and have a little bit of something to eat. Okay, so we positioned ourselves in quite a nice spot, I think, that we will be surrounded by this herd shortly. The same herd we've been with for a little while, trying to anticipate their movements. That looks tasty. So you see how with her trunk, she's really, really going through the base of that bush there, looking for the best and juiciest. Now, I should be determining that by smell. The eyesight of elephants is okay, but they can't really see where they're putting their trunk. It's really in there. So it definitely can smell exactly what it is that they want. Yeah, here she comes. And she's going to come and give us a little bit of a... Are you pregnant, my darling? I think she might be. Oh, she's thinking. When an elephant lifts its leg like that, everybody, you must always allow it to make a decision. Oh, hello. Hello. You are beautiful. Hello, gorgeous. How incredible is that? They do look far bigger, don't they, when they get right up close like that, even a youngster like this. That was them talking. Who knows what that said exactly? Could have been very kind words. It could have been very nasty words. We don't really know. There's the matriarch, though. She's the one you've always got to be aware of. Here comes another female BK. She's going to come involved now as well. She's wondered what all the hype is about. She's going to come find out. Oh no, she's just going to come and eat. Okay, so here comes the one who's in charge. So her behavior is going to be very important to understand. She's the biggest. Lottie, no, I haven't actually seen that herd with the buffalo. BK, you saw it yesterday. It was around Treehouse. Okay, I haven't seen it, and we haven't seen it this morning. Yeah, the big mama just came and got involved and made sure that all of the family was being good and not stepping out of line. Just coming and saying, no, this is just Steve and BK. They just had to film us and show the world what beautiful animals we are. And her communication would have everybody feel very relaxed This little youngster being between us and mum, it's a very good indication that the herd is relaxed. The fact that they're feeding, going about their normal behavior, is a very, very good sign. If you don't see the babies, what's the first indication that they're not 100%? He's trying to put it in his mouth. Do you see that? The trunk is working, but it's not very efficient at the moment. Come on, show us how you do that again, little one. Another mouthful of grass. Yes, I know Mum uses her trunk to smash the grass around and knock off all the dirt. I'm trying to do it. I just don't quite have the technique down yet. Oh, special. Using its foot to help to push the grass out. Ooh, I got stuck. In the mouth. Yes, Mama, you are a magnificent family of elephants, and we're going to stay right with them.
All morning we were successful in finding those lions we were looking out for, and it looks like they might be on a kill. It's hard to see what exactly it might be, but we're going to try and stick here for a little while and see if eventually we can get some glimpse of what it could possibly be. So I would like to encourage all our viewers, please send in those questions to hashtag Wild Earth, hashtag CGTNWild, or at FC. We would love to hear from our viewers. So have a look at this young white male that's also just moving in the back. He's probably just seeing if there's any scraps that are left from that carcass. He's really starting to turn into quite a beautiful male because of that mane that's starting to develop. Now, there's quite a few things happening here. So we have the lions here on a carcass. Just next to it, we have one of those big, dominant Ross males that are lying down on their back with their legs up in the air. And we have a hooded vulture just up here in the tree from where these lions are. Just waiting for possibly these lions to move off to get some scraps as well. For me, I personally think that the strongest scent will probably be smell, because lions, way before they even see an animal, they'll be able to pick up the scent, especially depending on how hard the wind will blow. But what's interesting about them is, in some areas, you might find that lions could climb onto trees, and then, of course, sight will be the stronger one. But in areas that are quite dense, smell is the key in order to find some of the animals, or even to find water. So they rely heavily on that. Probably going to be their strongest scent. So if you look at that young male now, so the other one has just left, and he's picked up something. Now, I'm not too sure what it is. I'm trying to see. Maybe all of you can have a look as well and see what it possibly can be. Kathy, with the lion's strongest sense would probably be smell. I think earlier I mentioned about, I don't know if the signal might have broken up there, especially because we are in the African bush. But so smell is quite a big thing for them. Sometimes with these lions, they'll be able to smell something way before they even see it. Now, this area here, you can notice how dense it is in comparison to those vast open areas that sometimes we do drive through. And so because of that, the lions will heavily rely on smell, and they tend to move into the wind, so the wind will blow towards them, and if they do pick up a smell, they'll use their cover in order to get closer, so until they can eventually spot the prey. But there's eyesight, their hearing, everything is exceptional, but their smelling probably going to be the strongest or the best sense. See, this young male has also picked up something and has just moved to the back. Now, through in the back there, so where this one is just slightly left at the back, through the trees. You'll notice there's that young male at the back. I'm just going to move slightly forward, so bear with me as I do this, because there's a young male and it looks like the other dominant male is heading towards him. Jason, I agree with you. These lions blend in super well to this environment. So I'm just going to move till here, just to see if we can get him. We'll try and see if we can angle the camera now. The other male is just moving behind him now, but you can see how wary he is, because yesterday already the male started fighting with him, and of course he just doesn't want to leave the pride at the moment. He should have already left, but he's trying to hang in as long as he can, because he knows there's safety in numbers, but also with the females hunting quite constantly, he'll be assured of some food. There's the other Ross male closer to us that just gotten up now. You can see he's looking back. So it'll be interesting to see what interaction we're going to get here. Is this male just going to go and flop down, or is he going to move closer towards where that sub-adult is lying down?
I am now in the Mawati doing a bit of a river cruise, especially since now I realized that I don't need to touch the steering wheel or the pedals. Please won't you let Dylan know that I'm pulling one of his styles today. Now the reason I'm here is because I'm determined to find the python before I have to leave you guys. Still a week left, but I'm determined, absolutely determined. Now it's cold today, or colder than it has been, so the python will be wrapped up, trying to keep warm. It's been up in trees the last few times. It wouldn't be active very much at all. It wouldn't even be eating, because reptiles need to actually have heat to increase the rate of their metabolism to begin to eat and to digest. So what can actually happen is that if they eat at the wrong time when it's very cold, basically their whole metabolism shuts down and they stop digesting, and basically they get stuck, and this can actually kill them. So it would be relaxing somewhere in a tree, in a tight little ball or big ball, and I'm going to find it.
Thanks, Trish. Well, good luck finding your snake in the treetops. We've come down into the river itself, and the big female elephant of this herd has pushed over one of the acacias, one of the river thorns. And I spoke earlier about how the elephants move in response to the youngsters. And what this female has done is she's facilitated the youngsters' ability to feed on this tree. Now, just on the left of the screen there, you'll see those thorns that are sticking out by her body, those white thorns. Now, that is a different tree, but the same species. Now, she is pushed over the tree with thorns like that. Those really long, spiky thorns, which look quite uncomfortable, are no match for the elephant's mouth, and they will just stick the entire branch in their mouth. She's pushed over the tree, and now all the youngsters are able to feed on it as well. So that is a facilitation for her babies, for the youngsters, and then other animals such as duiker, bushbuck, nyala, impala will also be able to come along to this tree that's been pushed over and feed on it as well. And the way it's been pushed over, we didn't hear it crack or snap. I think she's just pushed it and it's moved a bit. I think it's still rooted in the ground. So there's a very good chance the tree is still alive and will continue to grow with just a bit of a change in its direction. So very juicy new leaves on the occasion now. You see how green they are just above that elephant's head. Very little white or sort of yellow pom-pom blossoms. Very luminous green leaves. Now she's moving through that with her skin. Now if we try to walk through that. Okay. Now, sometimes we don't understand why they scream like that. It can always make you jump a bit. Sometimes it's a youngster trying to suckle. Sometimes it's a male elephant who's trying to join in the fray and trying to cause trouble with regards to mating. And sometimes they do that when they see predators. But you can see the behavior of the rest of the herd has not changed. But look at those thorns. Look how she's just going to stick it in her mouth. No problem. Very, very powerful thorns. The thorns have evolved to slow down the feeding rate at which antelope are able to feed. So the antelope will still feed on those plants, but they nibble around the thorns, which slows down their ability to eat it. But elephants, well, they just put the whole branch in the mouth. They're not bothered by the thorn at all. Their hide is so thick the thorns can't penetrate either. And so they can just push themselves through these trees without any effort. And well, we'll stay here and watch this herd enjoy their breakfast.
Wow, there was a dash for cover for some reason there. And you've seen how relaxed they are with us. David is still 7-8 yards away from them. I'm that same distance behind David now. But remember, we've touched on this previously, is this key point when they're leaving the burrows. And this little group is on the verge of going foraging now. Literally, it's like probably minutes away from foraging. And they will obviously be super, super, super nervous. Anything that flits over, anything that draws their attention, and that's why they'll dash back. They will get to the point, however, where they cannot get back to their main burrow, and it'll be faster and more expedient just to get to one of their, what we call a bolt hole. And that, like I said, they have this intimate knowledge of the area and where all the little holes are.